Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
When you were a little kid and you thought about what you wanted to be, teaching was at the top of your list. But things changed. And as you got older, teaching didn't seem like the best option anymore. So you're thinking you'll be something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Now you want to be a doctor. You don't think teachers save lives? 25 at a time. An actress? Try playing a different role every time the bell rings. How about a scientist? Ever heard of physics? Chemistry? Who do you think teaches that? Teachers today are breaking down obstacles, finding innovative ways to instill old lessons, and taking learning far beyond the four walls of the classroom. It's time to recognize that great things are happening in teaching and put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Have you ever either wanted to get in or out of your driveway only to discover that a stranger's car or truck is blocking it?
How do I report a vehicle blocking my driveway?
All drivers with a valid New York license are taught that blocking a driveway is a violation. In fact, the Department of Motor Vehicles states that you cannot park in a driveway, period. And yet the problem persists. So instead of doing something rash, register your complaint by contacting 311. There you could file a report letting them know that your driveway is being blocked. Or you could contact your local police precinct. Cars can be ticketed and towed. And if that happens, the perp will pay. Because fines are steep. It won't be cheap.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
With more than 8 million people living in the city, there's a whole lot of garbage and recyclables to collect. So to keep things running smoothly, there's a timetable for pickups in all 5 boroughs.
What is my garbage and recycling pickup schedule?
Your pickup day and time depends on where you live in the city. To find out, simply go to nyc.gov and search Refuse Collection Schedule. But remember, you won't be seeing that garbage truck on city holidays. Really bad weather, like a snow or ice storm, which can make getting around tough, can also mean delays or cancellations. And it's not just your wardrobe that changes with the seasons. Pickup times do too. Just go to the website to find out when to take out your trash and recyclables, and when to remove your empty bins from the curb. How do I find a police precinct or police service area based on name or address?
Each neighborhood across the 5 boroughs has a specific police precinct assigned to it, and it can be very helpful to know which one is closest to you.
If you're trying to locate a police precinct or one of the 9 public housing police service areas, also known as a PSA, there are 2 ways to find the information on your computer. Log on and go to nyc.gov. Type in police precinct to find it by name, or type in find your precinct to locate it by address.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
This is the sound of a brand new outdoor grill being hurled off a 20-story building. Now a stylish glass coffee table. An electric guitar. These are the things you could enjoy, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Visit EnergySavers.gov and get tips on how to save energy and money. Then do things like switch to Energy Star light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. So this doesn't happen to the recliner you've had your eye on, or this to the treadmill on your wish list, or this to the shiny new bike your kid's been asking for. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Did you know that New York City has a store? Well, it does. It's the City Store, the official store for the City of New York, where you can find everything from gifts and collectibles to municipal publications like the Green Book, and including a diverse collection of books about New York. So come to the City Store, located in the North Plaza of the Municipal Building. For more information, dial 311 or visit www.nyc.gov.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
How do I get water and sewer bill information?
When clean New York City water comes out of your tap, it's part of a system that supplies over 9 million people.
The Department of Environmental Protection's website is a fast, easy, and convenient way to view and pay your water bill. Go to nyc.gov and search DEP Ways to Pay Your Bill. There you can look at water usage and spot leaks and water waste that can cost you money.
If you want to pay your bill by mail, phone, or in person, you'll need your account number located on the upper left side of your water bill.
You can pay by phone by calling 866-622-8292, or you can pay in person by visiting a DEP borough office.
Sometimes just mentioning the word taxes sends people running for cover. It can be an overwhelming topic. And if you're a homeowner, understanding property tax is just one more thing on a long to-do list.
How do I get help understanding my property tax account?
If you have questions about your property taxes or your account bill from finance, there's help available. Log on to the finance section of nyc.gov. Here you can check your balance, estimate future taxes, and make a payment. There's also a list of frequently asked questions to answer or explain even the smallest problem, like how to replace your bill, how to pay online, or how to change your mailing address. Don't see your particular question? Contact the Department of Finance by email, traditional mail, or by contacting 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
If you've paid your parking ticket and are having a problem with the payment process, you can find help.
How do I get help with parking ticket payment problems?
Say, for example, you're owed a refund. If you're the registered owner of the car, the finance department will automatically issue a check for the overpayment within 30 days. If you're not the registered owner of the vehicle, procedures may be different, so make sure you save your tickets, payments, and tow receipts. Log on to the finance section of nyc.gov, click on refunds, and follow the instructions. You can file online or download a form to mail in later. Still can't find a solution to your problem? Contact 311 and a representative from the Department of Finance will get back to you.
Today might be the day I drop out of school. Today could be the last day I try. My parents alone can't stop me. My friends can't even stop me. But you might be able to. With United Way, you could tutor me, be my mentor, or volunteer to just read with me. If someone had helped me earlier, I might not be struggling. And studies prove that kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. There are tons of ways people like you can help kids like me stay in school. And United Way is calling for you to be one of them. Because it takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between me becoming one or the other could be you. Make me a success, not a statistic.
Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Getting a parking ticket isn't fun, but it happens. It's best to deal with it right away, but if you've put it off, you'll need to find out where you stand.
How do I check the status of a parking ticket online?
You can check the status of your ticket online by...
Now, right? Good afternoon, everyone. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for being a part of this gathering. I'll say at the beginning of this, I'll say at the end of this. This will be the first of many such gatherings. We are thrilled that you're here, and we appreciate your patience. It took a while to organize everything, but now that we've gotten started, expect to be gathering with us on a regular basis. I want to especially thank Gary Pierre for bringing us together and being the respected figure he is, who understands the life of the city, the importance of ethnic media from all different communities, and obviously how much we want the city government to have a close working relationship with all of you. We have brought together an all-star team here from the administration, starting with my favorite member of the administration. She is the chair of the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City. First Lady of New York City appears to be married to me, my wife, Shirlane. I will take this moment in my quick introduction, because we obviously want to get right to Q&A, but I've got my audio-visual moment here. This is a plate that was sent to me from folks in my grandfather's hometown, Sant'Agata dei Goti. It's about an hour east of Naples in southern Italy. And the reason I hold this up is that my family has kept a very close connection to our ancestral hometowns. Yes, I will display further the plate. My family has kept a very close connection to our ancestral hometowns. Shirlane's family, which hails in part from St. Lucia and Barbados, people have kept in close touch. We determined with our children to take them back to our ancestral hometowns on both sides, to give them a strong sense of their heritage and their connection to the larger world. So I say that only to say that I think, like so many New Yorkers, where we come from is central to our thinking, also an appreciation that where we come from gives us an instant sense of connection to everyone else who comes from different parts of the world to be a part of the experience here in New York City. In Arizona in recent years, some laws were passed that a lot of us found objectionable. And I said at one point, someone was interviewing me about it, and I said, look, let me put this in context for you. My grandfather came here over 100 years ago from southern Italy. Somewhat olive-skinned guy, very thick accent. I said if you dropped him today in Arizona, he would be subjected to the same profiling. And so that anything that affronts the immigrant reality of this city and this nation is against our values. And so for us, you in the different organizations you represent, you speak to people who make up the New York City experience and are part of living the American dream, to say the least, and we value that you have that direct connection, both providing information to your constituencies, but also raising issues of concern from them to the city government. And I want to say that we honor that very personally and very humanly, because we think through this perspective of our own families and our own ancestors. In addition to Shirlane, who you'll hear from in a moment, we have Lilian Barrios Paoli, our Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, proud daughter of Mexico. We have Nisha Argawal. I'm not going to tell you all about Nisha, who is our new Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, because Shirlane gets to introduce her. I lost a coin toss on that. We have Marco Carrion, who is the Commissioner of our Community Affairs Unit, Josh Wallach, the Chief Strategy Officer at the Department of Education, Chief Joanne Jaffe, NYPD Community Affairs Bureau, and many, many other great leaders of the administration are with us. Bottom line is, we appreciate the work you do, we value it, we think it's central to the life of this city, and we need your help. When there's important information to get out to communities, we know you're in a particular position to do that. When there's confusion that has to be overcome and clear information that has to get out there, and opportunities for people and opportunities to tell people what their rights are and the things they can take advantage of that they should have every right to, you're always in the middle of those discussions in a role to help us. We are a particular place in so many ways. Just the population of people in this city born in another country is almost 3 million New Yorkers. That means our population of people born in another country is the equivalent to the total populations of places like Chicago and LA. So it gives us a particular perspective. Here we think it is virtuous, it is typical for people to speak multiple languages. We embrace that. We are committed to doing so much of what we do in multiple languages. And then I just want to say, in terms of the programmatic piece, I know we'll get into detail. I don't need to review my core agenda. I think you've seen it and heard about it and written about it, broadcast about it in many ways. Obviously, these are crucial days in terms of our focus on pre-K and after school. I dare say, for the people who follow your publications, your stations, what we're going to do with pre-K and after school is going to have a huge positive effect for all families. I think for families, immigrant families, for families that have English language learning kids in them, pre-K in particular is going to be a transcendent new force, opening up a lot of opportunity for them. We are very focused on, in another vein, creating a municipal ID program that will be available to all who need it, including our undocumented brothers and sisters. Nisha is going to be taking the lead on that. You'll hear more about it, but it's a plan we have seen work in other cities. We're committed to implementing it quickly here. Obviously, we're committed to a different and more positive relationship between police and community. We think we've achieved a lot on that already, but it's something we think is important to all New Yorkers of all backgrounds. We're committed to increasing wages and benefits with a variety of tools. We've taken some important actions in recent weeks. Paid sick leave coverage for a lot more New Yorkers, efforts to increase living wage approaches that will up wage levels for a lot of people who right now are barely able to get by. This is, from our point of view, what we came here to do. And I hope you can see that it's not something we do lightly, it's not something we do slowly, that our agenda is one we feel vigorously and intensely. I've chosen people, some of the leaders that I've just introduced you to, and others who are not here with us, like our schools chancellor, Carmen Farina, our police commissioner, Bill Bratton. They're all devoted to a reform agenda, and they're devoted to getting things done quickly. With that, and I look forward to questions on any and all of that when we open it up in just a couple of minutes. With that, I'm going to turn to our First Lady, and not only does she have a deep sense of her heritage and of so many of the communities of this city, I can say she has another kindred reality for you, which is her history in the publishing world. When she first came to New York City, it was to pursue a career in publishing. So she has that media impulse running through her, having worked for a number of magazines, including Essence. And so anytime that I find I might have done something that she doesn't approve of, she starts asking me questions in the style of a journalist. So you can immediately tell she can relate to you. With that, I say thank you, First Lady, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am so excited that all of you are here today. I think that we're making history, right? This is a big moment to have all of you gathered here today and documenting it. And so I just want to say that I appreciate you and your work because, as you've just heard, I am the granddaughter of immigrants, but also I am a journalist. I've spent many years as a journalist. And I also have spent many years at Maimonides Medical Center, where I had a position where my job was to provide health information to all the different communities surrounding the hospital. And this is a hospital where they say, I don't recall the exact number, but there are more than 100 languages spoken. So it was very important that we be able to convey information about doctors, about health services, about various screening programs to all the different communities around the hospital. And for those reasons, all of those reasons, I appreciate you and what you do. And also as a New Yorker, because I've been in New York for about 37 years now, and but most of my life. And I've lived in more neighborhoods than I can name off the top of my head. So I know from my heart, I know from my experiences that all the news that people need to hear is not going to be found in the New York Times or on 1010 Wins. That the information that people need is local, like politics is local, the news is also local, and we rely on what you do to get along. I mean, just to do our daily business, to find doctors, to find programs and entertainment and follow the government, like what's happening, what's going on. So there are tens of thousands of people for whom your stories are a lifeline. And we have so much going on here in government. It's huge, it's complex, it's a lot to navigate. And you are the key to making sure that people are connected to the programs and services that they need. You have your ear to the ground. People talk to you, so you know what they're concerned about, and you are able to talk back to them with your words in whatever media you're in. And that's the way journalism is supposed to work. It's a conversation. I know what you do is not easy, and I think that's why I'm so glad you're here today, because we want to be able to connect you to the people who can give you the information that you need to write about for the communities that you serve. What you do is not easy. What you do is not always glamorous. And I have immense respect for the work that you do. So thank you for coming, and I look forward. This is just the first of many conversations, so I look forward to getting to know you better. And now we will hear from our new commissioner. I was wrong.
I thought you were introducing her. It turns out I'm introducing her. Wait a minute. You want to do it together?
No, you go first.
Okay. We can do each word back and forth. So Nisha Agarwal has an extraordinary family story, because she has a family devoted to making a positive impact in the world. As a child, she heard stories about her grandfather, who played an important role in India's nonviolent struggle for independence and freedom alongside the movement of Mahatma Gandhi. And her mother, Rita, came from Bombay, correct? And Nisha came here, talented, well-educated woman in her growth and development here, and like so many other people, could have decided to devote herself to a more financially compelling path, and instead decided on public service. And we are very thankful. Did a number of things, including establishing the Immigrant Justice Corps, one of the co-founders of the Center for Popular Democracy, and spent time as a lawyer at New York Lawyers for Public Interest, among other things. So we knew when we all met Nisha that she had the right values and the right impulse to help us achieve things like municipal ID cards, and we're thrilled she agreed to join us. Over to you. You got it.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Try this one if not.
Great, is that better? Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, First Lady McRae, and thank you to all of you for being here with us today and for participating in this roundtable. As the mayor mentioned, my parents are both immigrants from India, and growing up, we subscribed to a few different papers for the Indian diaspora and the local paper. But when my parents needed to get information about what was happening in the world, in our community, they turned to the ethnic media first. And I saw growing up that the way they were getting their messages about what was happening in the world was coming through the ethnic media and through community media. And that is why I know it's so important, the work that you do, both to get the word out to immigrant communities, but also to be partners with us in the work that we're doing in city government. If we want to get any message out, we have to do it in partnership with all of you. And that's critical. So I hope you will see my office, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, as a partner and an ally in that process. We are the bridge between City Hall and New York City's immigrant communities. We run and develop programs that are important to New York's immigrant populations, including municipal ID, but also many others. We work with our sister agencies to help them be as accessible to immigrants as possible and to our city's many diverse language groups. We are a resource for immigrant families who have difficulty navigating either city government or the different resources that are available within the city. And we celebrate the contributions of immigrant New Yorkers. And it's on that note that I'd actually like to share with you, or perhaps remind many of you, about Immigrant Heritage Week, which will happen next month, April 17th, will be the kickoff. And our theme this year will be Community Conversations on Immigration. And in keeping with that theme, I will be going into different borough-based immigrant town hall meetings to hear from community groups about what are the issues facing immigrants in New York, both in general and in common, as well as within particular communities. What are the specific concerns? And as has been said, we hope this is the start of many, many conversations with New York's immigrant communities and with all of you and your readers, viewers, and listeners. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm now going to turn it over to Gary Pierre, who is the Executive Director of CUNY's Center for Community and Ethnic Media, and as you all know, has decades of experience in the media and the ethnic and community media in particular.
Thank you, Nisha. I look forward to working with you over your tenure as Commissioner of Immigrant Affairs. We think it's a very important office. And they've been our partner, and we hope to continue that partnership even closer. To my colleagues, I'm going to try to take as many questions as possible because I don't want anyone to feel slighted. Time is a bit short, so that's the reason why we ask you to write your questions in advance. And so if you have a follow-up, just raise your hand, and someone will write your question, and someone will pick it up, and then we'll get it going. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for your time. We're going to get straight to it. We've had about 6 or 7 questions on this topic of Muslim surveillance program, and people want you to reiterate your position on it and what can they expect moving forward.
Well, I said over the last months that we are going to do we're in the process of a full review of the approaches that have been taken in the past. Obviously, we have a larger interest in bringing all communities together in close, positive working relationship with NYPD. Chief Jaffe is here, and if you have anything to add, feel free, but I'd say that, we believe that the most productive approach is when there is that close respect and partnership, that is how we keep communities safe. We obviously believe in scrupulously respecting the Constitution. Commissioner Bratton has said repeatedly that the approach we are taking to policing is constitutional, respectful, and compassionate to the people we're serving. He's also said very powerfully, you don't break the law to enforce the law. So that's the view we take. When we have the full results of our review, we'll certainly be able to indicate how we're going to approach this going forward.
Thank you. Another question is that this morning, dozens of tenants were present at the Rent Guidelines Board public hearing and demanding a rent freeze. Some claim that that was one of your campaign promises. Is a rent freeze possible? If so, when some members of the board represent the real estate industry. I think I will follow up to that question with another question on the same topic, is also how realistic is your plan to create 200,000 new affordable housing units for New Yorkers?
I think it's very realistic. I think it's ambitious to say the least, but we're very devoted to using all the tools of our city government over the next 10 years to create 200,000 units. That's using the rezoning process more aggressively, demanding more of developers in terms of affordable housing. Because, look, the opportunity for developers to profit is intense right now, and we want to make sure the public gets more in return in that transaction. There's a number of other things we want to do. We want to devote pension fund dollars to affordable housing creation. We want to change some of the tax code in terms of vacant properties to reward putting those properties on the market rather than holding them back. A number of items that we think when we add them all together over the next 10 years will allow us to get to that 200,000 unit mark. To put that in perspective, that's enough housing to reach 400 to 500,000 people. So it's crucially necessary. On the Rent Guidelines Board, we're going to be naming the chair shortly. We're going to fully review the situation. Obviously, each year has to be looked at given the overall economic dynamics. I'm very sensitive to what all tenants, all working people have gone through in the last few years of this economy. So that's going to be a major factor in how we weigh the final decisions on the rent situation. But I want to hold off on further elaboration until the chair is in place and the chair has an opportunity to look at the specifics.
The next question, we've had about 7 or 8 on the same topic. It's about the city's policy regarding advertising in ethnic and local media. And the question here is, should there be a directive from your office to allocate some advertising towards these newspapers?
Well, I'll start, and I'm looking at Maibe Ponet, who's one of our deputy press secretaries, and if I leave anything out, you'll add. I mean, we're looking for the opportunity to do more. I can't commit to a specific yet because we've just started that review. We certainly think it's an area of some possibility, and I think we'll know more in the next month or so. Is that right? Definitely. Good. Please.
Initially, you might want to have been working and looking into the contract that we already have to see how we can.
Can you speak in the mic, please? I'm sorry.
Sure. We are currently looking into the contracts that we have in place.
You need a microphone that works.
Nisha, you want to
come over here, or either one. Or Nisha, does that work?
Does this work?
Doesn't work.
So we are looking into contracts around media placements in a range of different media sources, including ethnic media. Our hope is very, very soon we will have some decisions and some ideas about how to expand that. But the goal is to expand for sure.
Oh, you.
Okay. You promised during your mayoral campaign that City Hall would reflect the demographic of New York City, which means that would be 13% of Asian American staff members. And so how are you doing on that front?
Well, what I talked about was the senior ranks of our government across the board, all our agencies. And there's still some major announcements that we'll be making in the coming weeks, but when we look at the announcements we've made so far, which I believe is around 75 officials that we've named, we feel very good about the start we've gotten in terms of creating a really diverse leadership for this city government. We always want to do more, so you'll be able to grade us most effectively when we've named the entire senior level. And then we get to work at the next level. In other words, once all the commissioners are named, we get to work on the deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners, who are not only important officials in and of themselves, but will be tomorrow's commissioners. So, and in that rank, we also want to see intense diversity. So we feel good about the start that we have. We've got more to do, and we always welcome good names.
When do you want to implement your zero vision policy in full? And what steps should be taken by Albany to achieve your goals in improving pedestrian safety?
We'd like Albany to support our efforts by agreeing to our right to lower our speed limit, our what's called a default speed limit, meaning the speed limit that is in effect around the city whenever one is not posted otherwise. We'd like Albany's support to have more cameras to inhibit speeding and to inhibit people going through red lights. We're waiting to see what happens here in the budget process in Albany. There'll be potentially another opportunity for the remainder of the Albany session through June. And then there's a number of things we can do here. I think our overall progress is that the agencies involved, including the police department, Department of Transportation, Taxi and Limousine Commission, all understand what a profound priority this is for us. And in particular, want to credit Joanne, your boss isn't here, but I'll credit him because he's been Commissioner Bratton has been incredibly focused on Vision Zero, as has Commissioner Trottenberg at DOT. So we've already moved additional enforcement pieces into place. We're doing a lot more public education. Then these big additions we hopefully will get from Albany or through some actions by the City Council.
Thank you. Some workers, particularly immigrants, are afraid with the sick pay law because they think that might get them fired. What is your message to people like that?
I'll start, and I'll look to Nisha if you have anything to add. For one thing, you're a lawyer, I'm not, but I'm innocent. I'm not a lawyer. Look, this law was intended to uplift people's standard of living, and the notion is that we're now going to reach about 500,000 more New Yorkers who will have paid sick leave coverage who previously had no guarantees whatsoever. It's very central to our vision to make sure people can take care of their own health, to make sure they can take care of the health of their children, grandchildren, grandparents. You know, it really is comprehensive. We've seen it in other cities around the country be very successful. Great positive impact on people's health and well-being, more economic security because people do not lose pay when they're sick, very minimal impacts on small business. In fact, some good impacts in terms of worker productivity and longevity with each company. I'm going to turn to Nisha because the way we've written the law, it applies to everyone, and I don't think that fear will be realized, but I turn to you.
That's exactly right. So the paid sick leave law has, among other things, protections against retaliation for individuals who may step forward to vindicate their rights to paid sick leave. So workers should not be afraid. But more importantly, one of the things that the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs is doing is sitting down with the Department of Consumer Affairs, which will be enforcing the law, to figure out what's the best way to outreach to immigrant communities, both to immigrant workers as well as to immigrant small businesses who may be subject to the law. We want to ensure that on both sides there's compliance with the law and there's fairness and access.
Next question is, what are you going to do to ease the burden of fines, taxes, and penalties levied on small businesses in New York City?
Well, yeah, a lot of people have been asking about this lately, rightfully, because this was a very central theme in not only what I talked about in the last year, but in everything I did as public advocate. As public advocate, we published 2 reports that were really foundational to my understanding of these issues. One in which we showed a distinct pattern of bias in terms of enforcement on small business, and the bias was greater toward outer borough businesses and even greater still towards immigrant small businesses, meaning more enforcement, more fines arbitrarily. So, second report looked at the relationship between the city government and small businesses from immigrant communities, and what we found was, sadly, the relationship was essentially a negative one because it had to do with enforcement rather than meaningful ways to help communities and small businesses. So what we're aiming to do is a couple of different things. We're going to change the approach to enforcement as much as possible, focusing on education first. This is something we're certainly going to do with the paid sick leave law. We're going to reduce the emphasis on the fine collection. There will still be fines. Anyone who is not following the laws consistently will be fined, but we're going to try to maximize education and give people opportunities to correct. You'll start to see more of the details of that in the coming weeks. The key individuals in the agencies that are pertinent, Maria Torres Springer at Small Business Services, who's an extraordinary young leader, child of Filipino immigrants, really devoted to changing the relationship between the city and small business. Catherine Garcia, our new sanitation commissioner, Mary Bassett, our new health commissioner, they all believe in trying to change these dynamics. And then further, over time, our goal is to create a positive in the relationship, which is small business support hubs in neighborhoods that don't have enough support from city government, and eventually a goal of having a revolving loan fund available to small businesses, because the thing we found in our studies is the number one thing small businesses are having challenges with is access to credit. And we think the city can provide a positive contribution there.
Okay, thank you. Last month, in an interview with Brian Lehrer, you expressed your commitment to adding Muslim holidays in a reasonable time frame. Can you elaborate on that time frame with 1 in 8 public school students impacted? What are your plans for implementation?
We're working on it, and I don't want to ever, with anything I've said I want to do, and I know I can do it right away, as we knew we could with paid sick leave, we do it right away. I knew we could settle the stop and frisk lawsuits. We did that right away. Some things are inherently more complicated. This is one of them. I'm absolutely committed to the Eid holidays being added to our calendar. The challenge is there are state law challenges. There are a number of school days requirements that we have to meet. There are budgetary challenges. These are things we have to work through. We hope to do it quickly, but I don't want to give a time frame until we've done some more work to be able to report on what steps it will take.
Explain to us why universal pre-K is about economic empowerment.
Because right now, I think this is true for everyone, but I would say it's additionally true for young children of immigrants. Everyone in this society increasingly is experiencing this new phenomenon. Your economic destiny is determined by education much more deeply than previously. Here in this country, even 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there were real opportunities to be in the middle class even without a high school education. It was common. It had been common for generations before. Only in the last few decades has that ceased to be true, where with a few exceptions, to have a stable economic future requires a strong education. It certainly requires a quality high school education. It increasingly requires a college education. That is a massive societal change. We are the first generation to fully feel the effect, and we have to change everything we do to align to that reality. We believe, therefore, we have to upgrade our school system substantially. Right now, I've talked about the statistic. It's a very troubling one. Only 1 in 4 graduates of New York City high schools is college ready. Only 1 in 4. And remember that only about 2/3 of kids who enter high school graduate on time. So we have a massive gap in what we're doing to prepare our young people for the modern economy. It is even more of a challenge if a young person happens to start with a language other than English. We believe that pre-K changes this dynamic fundamentally, and we think after school and extended learning day does as well. Pre-K because we reach kids when they're most able to learn. The science is very clear. Children, when they're 3 and 4, can learn in a way that's much more comprehensive and effective than later in life. If you get them on the right track and get them on grade level early, they have a chance of succeeding all the way through. Also for English language learners, and this is crucial to our approach to the pre-K curriculum, it's a tremendous opportunity to teach children in a way that helps them to acquire English while learning in their own language as well. So we're very, very devoted to maximizing the opportunity at the pre-K level, but it must be universal. So our plan is full day pre-K for every child in the city. The second part, extending the school day through after school. This starts with middle school kids. This is the part of the plan we've put on the table now. We think middle school is a very sensitive age, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, difficult time for kids, transitional time in their lives. We want them to have the opportunity for free, universal, any child who wants to take advantage, any family who wants to take advantage, to stay in the school building or in a nearby community organization for 3 more hours each school day, or as many as they want to do, for tutoring, homework help, educational, academic enrichment, cultural programs, recreation, the things that will help them be safe and deepen their educational effectiveness. I think this combination is going to start to transform our school system. And my hope, and I'll say this now, and I'm sure I'll say it at the end too, is if you agree with that, because again, each of you has the ability to reach tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. We need your voice adding urgency to this moment that we need our friends in Albany to support New York City's opportunity to achieve full-day pre-K for every child and after-school programs for every middle school child.
Staying on the subject of education, the next question is, what is your position on dual language schools? Will we see an increase in number of such schools during your administration?
I'll start, and then I'm looking over to Josh Wallach. You may want to add as the Chief Strategy Officer for the Department of Education. We're going to need some strategy here. So, dual language approach is incredibly effective. It is costly, but very effective. We are taking some of the principles of it and combining that into the curriculum we will use for pre-K. We want to do as much as we can over time, again, in a system where we have a lot we have to move, because I've talked about not just pre-K, not just after school, but teacher retention, which is a huge challenge for this school system, retaining quality teachers, deepening parental involvement. We have many, many things we have to do simultaneously if we're going to transform the school system. So dual language is something I believe in. For example, I also believe deeply in the community schools movement, which means and you're going to see hopefully about 100 of these over the next 4 years, bringing physical and mental health services into school buildings. There's a lot of initiatives at once. So we're going to try and make a substantial move on dual language, but my caution is we do know it's an economic challenge because to do it right costs a lot. Do you want to add?
Sure. I'll add just 2 quick points. One is that I think as part of our universal pre-kindergarten program, you're going to see a large emphasis on dual language learning and supports and coaching and professional development for teachers that are able to serve English language learners and incorporate a dual language approach successfully. I also think you've seen at the Department of Education, it'll continue growing numbers of models for dual language learning approaches, and we are committed to continuing that exploration, looking at those models and replicating best practices. So you'll see more from us on that in the time to come. Thanks.
Thank you. To my colleagues, if you have any follow-up questions, please write them and then raise your hands, and then we'll pick it up. No, just write it, and then we'll make sure we ask the question. The next question is, when are you planning to implement the issuing of ID cards to undocumented immigrants?
Nisha Agarwal.
We will implement the municipal ID program before the end of the year. What I can share is that within City Hall, we have a working group that's formed that's thinking through. It's a complex implementation task. We want the cards to be widely available at many points throughout the city, and so we're working through some of the details about that, but by the end of the year, there will be cards. One thing that would be really helpful for all of you to be able to communicate to the communities that you interact with, there will be some legislation that will come out. The cards will not be available immediately after that legislation is passed. So people in the community should not go to fraudulent card providers. They should be really careful to wait until the official announcement from the city to get their municipal ID cards. But we're working very hard to make sure this happens before the end of the year.
There were a lot of questions regarding the makeup of your cabinet, of your administration, and I just wanted to return to that point. For instance, you have people in the Muslim community who's asking about the numbers, and you have the Asian community and Latino communities. It seems that is a recurring theme. I wanted you to address that again.
Well, first of all, again, we still have some very substantial announcements to make, and I think the way to assess us is when we've gotten through that full first round. But I feel like when you think about the things we were trying to achieve in this administration, we were adamant about finding people who shared the progressive values of this administration, who were going to be clear about achieving things aggressively, like municipal ID cards, like paid sick leave, like pre-K and after school. So it was very important to us to find people who shared those values. It was very important to find people who had substantial experience so they could come in and be effective from the beginning. And then we were adamant about wanting diversity and representation from across the city. So far, again, I think we have a very strong start, a lot of different communities well represented, but a lot more to do. So the first opportunity, I think, to judge comprehensively will be in the next few weeks when the first layer is filled out. And then we go through the next round, again, deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners, heads of different offices. And it's going to be something that never ends because, from my point of view, the work of creating diversity in government is a constant, and we look to do better all the time. But I think we've sent a clear message from the initial round of hires that a very wide range of communities are being represented.
The next question is for the First Lady. It's we wanted to know more about the G project that you unveiled recently.
The G project. I'm a G2, I believe, as a granddaughter of immigrants. I actually cannot give you a whole lot more information about the G project because that is not something that I am guiding and directing. I can say it's the Black Institute, and Bertha Lewis is the person to contact for more information. And I'm happy to, make sure that you get whatever information you need about it going forward.
And the Caribbean teachers examples, how we got involved with it, really.
That is right. That is right. You want to talk about it?
I think what because Bertha Lewis, who's someone we've both worked with for many years, brought to us the situation of a number of teachers who have been recruited from Caribbean countries to work for the DOE, and then let's just say that the commitments on follow-through in terms of their immigration status were not kept, and it's something we've been trying to fix with the Black Institute and other organizations. So, I think the notion of that project is to talk about the crucial nature of heritage in the city and what it means, but also talk about some of the specific wrongs that need to be righted.
Thank you. If any of you have questions specifically for Commissioner Carrion and Commissioner Deputy Mayor. I'm sorry.
Please feel free. I'm going to shame you. I'm going to shame you because, just so you know,
Lillian
Barrios Peralta is Deputy Mayor. Here are the areas she has to cover, just a few. The Health and Hospitals Corporation, Department of Health, Administration for Children's Services, Department of Homeless Services, Department for Youth and Community Development. Work with me. What am I leaving out? Department for the Aging. Human Resources Administration, which is all food, food stamps, hunger issues, public assistance issues, Medicaid. You have the Office of Domestic Violence to combat domestic violence. What do you do in your spare time, Lillian?
It sounds like she's the mayor.
and she a lot of people think that. And she can answer questions in Inglés or en Español. She's got it all covered.
Next question is, are you in favor of stopping Willits Point development and the expansion of the 82nd Street bid to Roosevelt Avenue in Queens?
I'm going to pass to Marco after I start. On the bid, I don't know the facts of it, so I need to review that. On Willits, I've said repeatedly that I think we need to push further in terms of affordable housing and other community benefits to get back to the original vision of the development. Do you want to add?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, there's not much more to add. I mean, obviously, this is a project which has been very controversial, but as the mayor said, I mean, the root of this had always been to redevelop and to always look for affordable housing and to help those businesses which have been displaced. So we'll continue to look into that.
I want to note further that Marco, as the head of CAU, first of all, doing a fantastic job. Second of all, has all of New York City to cover in a sense, because his job is to work with community boards, civic associations, neighborhood associations, clergy, community leaders. So he's doing a great job with his team of reaching out all over the city, and a great person to work with on specific community needs like this.
If we don't have any more questions, I think that's going to, okay. One more. Could you please talk about the development of Long Island City?
Can I help you?
Yes, please, because
he's struggling.
Hi, my name is Abu Tahir. I'm the editor of Bangla Patrikar newspaper for Bangladeshi community. And the question of mine, there's a lot of change in Long Island City. It's become another Manhattan. And every day there's a lot of new buildings and construction is going on. But the poor people who used to live there, they cannot afford that area's rent and all this. It's getting very expensive.
Yeah.
So being a mayor, what you are thinking about, two things. One, the people who are living low-income people, and then the construction is huge. Construction is going on there. And can you talk about the pollution and the health issue in that area?
I don't know the specifics of the construction. Again, I'll look to Marco if you want to add or if you want to follow up. I don't know about anything different about that construction anyplace else. Obviously, we're very concerned about the safety of all construction in the city and any impact it makes on surrounding neighborhoods. But on the question of how we can protect lower-income folks who are clearly affected by the changes in our city. And I think this is something that's sort of been under-examined in the last decade or two as the city has changed a lot, because, our policies have to respond. If you want to call it gentrification or whatever you want to call it, we have to have a coherent response. I don't think we have had that in many cases. My response is two things. One, to change to the maximum extent we can via the city government the basic economic ground rules by trying to lift up wages and benefits. And we think we have a lot of tools to do this, starting with paid sick leave, starting with living wage legislation and rules. But there's a number of other pieces that we're going to put into play that we think will substantially over time affect people's income and benefit levels and make it somewhat easier for people to be economically strong even with changing prices and changing dynamics around them. The second is the creation of affordable housing, which is obviously the number one expense for all families. So the 200,000 units, which would be the single largest expansion of affordable housing in the history of the city, we're committed to that. And it is something being directed here from City Hall. It's something we work on veritably every day with all the pertinent agencies. And again, if we succeed in the course of a decade creating enough to house 400 to 500,000 people, that's going to substantially help us rebalance some of the effects of the changing dynamics. And we're targeting that housing for all parts of the city with a special focus on some of the areas that are most affected by the changes. So it doesn't cover all of the concerns, but we think those two pieces start a very substantial response to the reality.
You had a follow-up, Carlos? I mean, Raphael, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm Rafael Cañas, the Bureau Chief in New York for the Spanish news agency EFE. You practically answered the follow-up, but the question that my colleague asked about Long Island City relates to all the gentrification process in whole city, in which many mid-class families are being pushed to some neighborhoods with lower mid-class or low income, who are being further pushed away. Is there any additional tool that City Hall has to try to stop this process, like stopping or freezing the prices in the free market or something like that?
Look, I think there's a range of pieces to the equation. We're obviously very devoted to, for example, protecting our public housing, which we have on a scale that no other city in America has. We want to protect it. We want to strengthen it because it's been economically distressed in recent years. Obviously, scrupulously opposed to anything that would undercut or attempt to privatize public housing. We are going to keep the public housing, the public housing supply we have. We're going to keep it. We're going to protect it. We're going to build it up. That's one piece of the equation. I think another piece of the equation is creating more affordable housing. Another, on a grand scale, another piece of the equation is pushing up wages and benefits. And then I think in terms of even local decisions we make about development, trying to make sure that we are careful about protecting sources of affordable housing that exist in neighborhoods right now, which in some previous developments, certainly in the last 12 years, some affordable housing was lost that there was no objective reason to lose. And we want to be much more critical in our approach to that. Equally, on the commitments made in the past to create affordable housing. Willits Point is an example. Atlantic Yards, where the Barclays Arena is. There's a lot of outstanding commitments to create affordable housing that have not been fulfilled. We're going to go back and reopen those and push for the creation of affordable housing. And then, of course, finally, one of the questions from before. We have a very strong rent regulation system here in the city. That's not going anywhere. In fact, we hope over the years, working with Albany to strengthen it further. That's a lot of tools. It is not perfect, but it's a lot of tools, and if we use them all aggressively, we think we can protect a lot of middle-class and working-class people.
A last question. Could you please elaborate about the recruitment process for the new pre-K teachers?
Absolutely. I'll start, and then Lilium or Josh, if you want to join in, please do. This is a very exciting moment for us because it's not just about reaching our children and giving them a better foundation in their education. There's a great opportunity for folks who want to go into the teaching field to have real opportunity here, and that doesn't just mean those who are already involved in our Department of Education. We also see this as a moment for a lot of people right now working for community-based organizations to get further training and teacher certification and have an opportunity to make a career path out of it and end up in a strong, middle-class job where they do a lot of good. So it's a big moment, and we want to encourage people to become a part of this because we want to bring in a lot of talent for this program. So do you want to, Josh, you want to start? And Lillian, if you have anything to add?
Thanks.
Okay, we are going through a lot of different channels to try to recruit the best and most talented pre-K teachers. I think one thing I would say right away is we have a new website that launched this week, which is teachnycpk.gov. You can also go to the DOE website, and you will see a link front and center for that. And we have it's translated into multiple languages as well. So we have two different strategies. One is to try to attract the best certified teachers from all across New York City and beyond to come and teach pre-K in New York City. And the other is to work with current teachers or current people that have early childhood experience to help them get certified as teachers so that they can lead UPK classrooms. And both of those paths, we want to work with you to get the word out about as quickly and as many people as possible. So please look at the website, and if you have any other questions, contact us at the Department of Education. We are looking for talented teachers.
And let me add that we have talented public sector leaders here in the room, Lilium and Marco and Josh and Chief Jaffe and so many others. So I have to leave in a moment, I know, but there's some really crucial members of this administration here, and I would urge you, if you have any immediate follow-up questions, to meet them and talk to them, or at least get their contact information for the future, because they all are going to be central to the efforts we're undertaking and a lot of the things that your constituents care about so deeply.
You wanted to say something, Deputy Mayor? Oh, thank you, Mr.
You just
Mayor.
enjoy me being on the hot seat. Next time we're going to do one of these, I'm just going to listen and you get all the questions. I want only questions on your areas.
I just want to remind my colleagues here that the IPPES Awards are coming and that someone in this room will be our keynote speaker. I'm not saying, but I'm telling you, someone in this room will be our keynote speaker. In any event...
Karen, you're going to be the keynote speaker. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And do you have any final words?
Just thank you. I hope that we can, again, do this regularly. It's very important to us. The notion of, we've set very rigorous goals. Of course, we understand your job is to hold us to them and to help us understand, and I have a benevolent view of the role of media in this case, help us understand some unintended consequences, help us understand some things that are not necessarily working on the ground. The affordable housing example I gave, it is very important, if we make a commitment on affordable housing, as has been done in past development, that if that is not being realized, we should have our feet held to the fire. And I wish, bluntly, that happened more in the last 12 years, too, because there were some important commitments made at the community level that were not kept, and that has to end. So I think you play a crucial role in creating accountability, which I appreciate. I do ask again, if you believe in some of the things we're talking about, please promote it. It's very, very important. If you believe municipal ID cards are going to help a lot of the people who use your media, please spread the word to people, and as Nisha said, about making sure it is the official version. If you believe pre-K for families in your community would make a difference, that guaranteed full-day pre-K would make a difference, please support it. Same with after-school programs. It's very important to ask people to get involved in helping us to achieve these changes. And with that, we really appreciate the time you've taken today to be with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take my plate now.
Yes. People always thought you were the people.
Thank you.
I remember you used to go to Brooklyn in Bangladeshi restaurant every week almost.
Because when I was in the city council, I had a large Bangladeshi community in my district.
Yeah, since you become mayor, people are missing you. So how do you fill up the campus?
Yeah, it's a little harder. It's a little harder, and I think for us, this is actually an important point I'll just add. I think for Charlene and I, of course, it is an eye-opening experience to go from being folks just going about our lives as normal to suddenly being in the public eye and having the responsibilities we have. And we came in with the state budget about to be adopted and a lot of other things that needed immediate attention here. I look forward to the day, and I think it starts really this summer, when the state budget's done, the city budget is done, we've named all our key people, and then we can spend a lot more time at the community level because that's something I value deeply. So give me a little time and I'll be back at the corner of Church Avenue and McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you.